Hey friends, I think you see me post kind of frequently about how I get my inbox to zero on a regular basis. And that might be kind of annoying to some of you. But I think it's a pretty cool thing. I feel good when I do it. And it gives me kind of this peaceful productivity feeling. So I basically get all of my email inboxes to zero every Friday morning. So I just wrapped up doing that. Actually, that's not true. I still have to work on my Hotmail inbox, but I've got my other main inboxes, my two main inboxes to zero already. And it feels really good to do that. It makes me feel like I can wrap up my week and have an idea of what next week looks like. And it just gives me a better sense of control over my life and my world. So I love getting to inbox zero. And what I've noticed in working with clients is getting people to create a system to get themselves to inbox zero kind of creates this peaceful productivity feeling in themselves. And it actually then creates a peaceful productivity breakthrough because when they get their inboxes to zero and they get that regular feeling, like that once a week feeling of like, okay, I've got this handled. They want that feeling in other areas of their life, not just their inbox. And let me explain why. And I have some notes here so I can make sure I cover everything I want to cover. So one of the things about the whole peaceful productivity feeling is the idea of busy versus productive. I think we've all heard of that idea of like the glorification of busy. And we all want to look busy because it seems like it's a good thing. And sometimes we're busy with the wrong things. And so busy is almost this external measurement and an external view of people, whereas productivity is more of an internal feeling. Like, do I feel like I did the right things today? Do I feel like I was productive? Did I move the right things forward? And so this idea of peaceful productivity is you thinking about what are the right things to be working on. So if you get that under wraps, so you can kind of understand that, then it's a matter of looking at, okay, well, then there's the ground versus the horizon. There's my day-to-day actions and activities, which can tend to be in that busyness realm, versus my high-level life's purpose. And how can I align my daily actions with my high-level life's purpose? And that's what I do. I help people do that. I coach people around doing that. So it would be a matter of like imagining. Can you imagine a life where the majority of your day-to-day actions are in alignment with what it is you're trying to create in the world and who it is you want to be and the kind of impact you want to have? And in the world can seem like a big charter, but it could just be in your world. It doesn't have to be the world, but what kind of impact do you want to have in your world? And what if your day-to-day actions actually lined up with that more often than not? So what that speaks to is intention, right? You need to be intentional. Not only do you need to know your purpose, you need to be intentional about aligning your day-to-day activities with your purpose. So here's the thing. There's intention and then there's reaction. And at that ground level of day-to-day activities, there's just a lot of reactivity. And I have found that the most reactive place in most people's lives, besides maybe their phone, their telephone ringing, right? If you actually answer your phone anymore, but is your inbox. Your inbox tends to be a very reactive place. And really, it's the place where everybody else is kind of telling you what they want you to be working on. So especially for those of us who are people pleasers, we can be slaves to our inbox and really like being super reactive and responsive to all these people. And you can lose track of what you really want to be working on, what you really want to be doing. So how do you be intentional and less reactive? And like I said, your inbox is one of the most reactive areas of most of our lives, where it's just, we see the number, light up saying that we've got a new message and what does it say and who needs what now and that kind of thing. So I have helped my clients, some of them with thousands of emails, some 16,000, some 6,000 to like 13,000 emails in their inboxes, get down to being able to get their inboxes to zero on a daily basis. And as I said earlier, the purpose of doing that is to help you have a sense of control and perspective over what's going on in your world. And when you can start with your inbox and you get a system down for that, it leads to productivity elsewhere in your life. So I'm going to share my 5 tips that I share with my clients to get your inbox to zero on a regular basis. So step 1 is to archive. I'm giving you full permission to archive anything from the past 3 months back in time. And you get to decide what your like line is that your line in the sand. But basically, if you haven't looked at it or needed it in the past 3 months, then create a folder that just says archive. You can have the date from which you're archiving and just archive as of, let's see, June 1st, right? And anything that's June 1st and older, any email in your inbox, June 1st and older, just goes into that folder. That's it. That eliminates thousands of emails from your inbox. And you're not deleting them, but you're also not having to look at each and every one and decide what to do. So it saves you a ton of time, and it gives you an immediate win, which I love to give people an immediate win, right? So step 1 is to archive anything 3 months or older, or what you get to decide. It could be 6 months, it can be a year, but you decide how much, what time frame feels right to you. So step 2, once you've done that, step 2 is to unsubscribe from everything that you don't love anymore. You might have loved it at one point. There might have been a great newsletter you were getting or daily tips that you were getting that you loved that you just don't love anymore. And so step 2 is to unsubscribe from anything that remains and delete anything that you don't want. So now that you've archived a bunch of emails, you're back in your inbox and you're looking through your inbox for anything that you can unsubscribe from. And when you unsubscribe from that sender, you delete anything from that sender, okay? This is a boundaries thing. You get to decide to some extent who's coming into your inbox. And sure, it was really helpful to get notifications about when to get your oil changed on your car, but you sold the car 2 years ago and you're still getting these emails about oil changes. Let it go. Get it out of there. Don't let it clutter up your inbox and your life and your brain anymore, okay? So that was step 2, is to unsubscribe from and delete anything that you just don't love anymore, okay? If you don't love it, leave it, okay? All right, number 3, what remains in your inbox is stuff that needs to be considered, right? You got rid of the stuff that's old. It's in your archive. You can access it if you need to. You undeleted from the stuff you don't want. So everything that's left is really stuff you have to make decisions about. And that's why it's still in there, is you just haven't given this stuff enough of your time and attention to make a decision about it. So I'm going to give you 2 really powerful questions to help you clarify what remains. So step 3 is to clarify the emails that remain in your inbox so you can move them out of your inbox. And so the 2 magical questions come from David Allen's book, Getting Things Done. And they are, what is it? And is it actionable? So what is it might sound like a funny question to be asking. It's an email. What else is it? But really, if you were to answer that question as if I asked you that question, and I know how it's different because this absolutely happens. I do this with clients. I'll say, okay, what is it? What is this? Well, it's an email from, my kid's school. Okay, but it's an email about what? And when they have to tell me with enough detail what this thing is so that I can understand it, then it makes it a lot easier for them to answer the second question, which is it actionable? So let's say this email that they're talking about is an email from their kid's school about an upcoming fundraiser. And they need to gather donations for this fundraiser. And so when they tell me that, then I ask, is this actionable? And if the answer is yes, we have to figure out what the next action is. And once we figure out what the next action is, and let's say in this case, their next action is to send an email to all their friends and family, letting them know about this fundraiser and can they please, submit donations by this time. So that's the next action, is to send an email. And if they can send that email in 2 minutes or less, they just do it, and then they can either delete that email or they can save it to a folder for a project for that particular fundraiser. If it's going to take longer than that, then they'll add that to their task list. And task list is a whole different thing we won't cover today, but they'll add it to their task list. And then guess what? That email either gets to be deleted or filed away. And if it's not actionable, if they decide they don't want to participate in the fundraiser, guess what? They get to delete that email or file it away. So either way, they're getting that email out of their inbox. And what that does is, and as you go step by step and go through that with each email, you start to develop a system of organization. And that's what step 4 is. Once you identify and clarify what the action is, step 3, for that email, then you organize it. So step 4 is to organize. So you create some sort of folder structure and task system to make sure that you can get those emails out of your inbox into a place where you can find them again if you need to, or delete them. So delete is a perfectly appropriate action, or your trash can is a perfect place for organization for some of these emails, right? So the organized step, step 4, really flows directly from the work that you do in step 3, which is to clarify each email, to understand what is it actionable, what's the next action, right? And then the organized step is your place to put everything. And don't get too hung up on the word organized or organization. Organized just means that where you put something is where it makes sense to you. You know, you don't have to use, I have a lot of folders and subfolders, not too many, but I have just the right amount for me to manage my inbox. Some people really only have their inbox and then an archive folder, and that's it, right? So as soon as they make a decision about something, if they want to keep that email, it just goes into their archive folder, and that's it. They just have those 2 folders. So I have more than that, and that's okay. So you have to play around to see what works for you, all right? So if you follow steps 1 through 4, you will be getting your inbox to 0. And if you aren't there yet, then you need to go back through steps 1 through 4 again, okay? So by now, inbox would be to 0 at step 4. Step 5 is a really simple one, but it's not always easy. Step 5 is to repeat, okay? Step 5 is to repeat. So you would repeat this process on a regular basis in your inboxes. So every Friday, I go through this process. Every Friday, if there's stuff that's coming in that I don't want anymore, I unsubscribe from it. I usually don't need to archive anymore, right? I've done the archive part. So I'm subscribing from things, I'm deleting things, and anything that remains, I'm determining, you know, what is it? Is it actionable? And then I add the action to my task list, and then the email goes away. Either it gets deleted or filed away into my organization system. So it gets me to 0 on a weekly basis. You know, and I do it once a week. You get to decide how often is often enough for you. But I at least get to 0 once a week. And what that allows me to do, and I do it on Friday mornings, I just did it today, it allows me to have just a more peaceful feeling as I leave my office for the week. And I get to go into my weekend kind of feeling like I'm going on vacation. I've got everything wrapped up. I know where things are at, and I just get to roll on out to vacation. What it also does in doing it and getting it to 0 on a weekly basis is it allows the rest of your week to get crazy, because life just happens and things get crazy. And I think we need to make sure we make room for craziness and messiness sometimes. So throughout the week, I am not at 0 in my inboxes. I'm deleting things along the way. I'm grabbing what's important and taking action on it. But other than that, there's stuff that piles up that I'm not ready to consider at that moment, or that I know can wait till Friday. So anything that can wait till Friday, waits till Friday, and I make decisions about it then and get it to 0. So what I want you to be thinking about is, would it be worth it, or how much time would be worth it for you to invest for just a little bit to get your inbox to 0 on a regular basis, to get you that peaceful productivity feeling? Because what I know for sure is that once you set up your system for your email inbox, it will start to expand for other areas of your life. And soon enough, you will leave your work week feeling on top of things in all areas of what you're doing, in work and life. So that way you just know where things are. You're not always getting everything done, because that's definitely not possible. We can't get it all done all the time. But you know what's not getting done. You really actually know what's not getting done, and you have a system to hold that. So I want you to think about what you'd be willing to invest in to make that happen for yourself, because you're totally worth it. We need you at your best, and we need your brain free to do really cool, creative things, not trying to remember what we need to, who we need to respond to, and what we need to do. So think about how that might be worth it to you to get your inbox to 0 on a regular basis, and what kind of feeling that would create for you. I will provide some links to resources in this post, so that way you can learn more. I'll provide a link to a download where you can access all my steps, and as well as join my 5-day challenge to get your inbox to 0 on a regular basis. Hope this was helpful to you all. Please feel free to comment with any questions, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. Thanks.